You know, for 4,500 years, the Great Pyramid has been this source of endless mystery. We've heard all the stories, lost chambers, alien builders, you name it. But what if the biggest secret isn't who built it, but how they pulled it off? In this explainer, we're going to dig into the incredible engineering that made this ancient wonder a reality. Okay, so picture this. A tiny robot, about the size of a shoebox, is slowly crawling through a narrow shaft deep inside the Great Pyramid. This passage has been sealed shut for 4,500 years. Then, it stops. There's a solid stone slab blocking the way. What could possibly be behind it? The researchers are holding their breath as they fire up the robot's drill. A tiny hole appears, a camera pushes through, and for the first time in millennia, we get a peek inside a hidden chamber. But to really get what that camera saw, we first have to wrap our heads around the sheer, mind-boggling scale of the pyramid itself. Because honestly, the greatest secret of the pyramid isn't just one hidden room, it's the unbelievable ingenuity that went into building the whole thing in the first place. Let's just start with the weight. The Great Pyramid is estimated to weigh 6 million tons. Now, that's a number so huge it's almost impossible to even imagine. So let's try to put that into a perspective we can actually understand. Think about the Burj Khalifa in Dubai, the tallest building in the entire world, a true modern marvel. Well, the Great Pyramid weighs as much as 12 Burj Khalifas. 12! And it was built without a single piece of modern machinery. Just let that sink in. And it's not just the total weight that's staggering, it's the number of individual pieces. The Great Pyramid is made of an estimated 2.3 million stone blocks. For comparison, the Empire State Building, just 200,000. That difference is just massive. It really shows you what kind of logistical nightmare they were dealing with. And what about its footprint? The base covers 13 acres. You could literally fit 9 entire American football fields inside of it and still have room left over. So imagine trying to build something that big, that heavy, and with perfect precision 4,500 years ago. Okay, so where do you even begin with a project like this? Well, before you can stack a single stone, you need a perfect foundation. And that was the first huge challenge for these ancient engineers. How to align and level this thing to support millions of tons of rock. First problem, alignment. The sides of the Great Pyramid are lined up almost perfectly with north, south, east, and west. Today, we just use GPS, right? Easy. But how did they pull this off with almost zero error thousands of years ago? Well, it turns out the ancient Egyptians were masters of astronomy. They used the polar stars, the ones that barely move in the night sky, to draw a perfect north-south line on the ground. It's a simple idea, but absolutely brilliant, and it let them align the whole pyramid with incredible precision, using nothing but the naked eye. Alright, so the pyramid is perfectly aligned. What's next? The foundation has to be perfectly level. I mean, over a 13-acre area, even a tiny slump could spell disaster for the whole structure. So how did they get it perfectly flat without any modern lasers or tools? Their solution was just beautiful in its simplicity. They dug a whole network of trenches across the site, filled them up with water, and then used the water's surface as a perfect level. Any rock that was higher than the waterline got chipped away until that entire 13-acre foundation was flawlessly flat. With that perfect foundation ready to go, the builders could finally start stacking stones. But this was a whole other epic challenge. They had to quarry, carve, and then move millions of these massive blocks, some of which weighed more than a city bus. Now remember, they didn't have steel. Their go-to tool was a copper chisel. But pure copper is actually pretty soft, way too soft to cut limestone very well. But these guys were also brilliant metallurgists. They figured out that if you mix a little arsenic into the copper, it creates a much harder bronze alloy that could actually carve through stone. And some of those stones were just gigantic. The average block was maybe 2.5 tons. But some of the huge granite beams inside the pyramid's chambers, they weighed up to 50 tons each. To really feel that weight, just picture 3 full-sized passenger buses. Now imagine trying to move all 3 of them at the same time. That's the weight of a single block they had to quarry, haul to the site, and then lift hundreds of feet in the air. Getting these stones to the pyramid was a project in itself. The beautiful white limestone for the outside was quarried 250 kilometers away. Just try to imagine hundreds of workers loading these multi-ton blocks onto boats, sailing them down the Nile River, and then unloading them again at Giza. The logistics of it all are just staggering. So they've got the stones. They're at the construction site. But now we come to the question that has puzzled people for centuries. How in the world did they get those 50-ton blocks almost 500 feet into the air without a single crane? Well, we don't know for sure, but the leading theory is that they used massive ramps. Archaeologists still debate the exact setup. Some think it was a long, straight ramp that just got taller as the pyramid grew, while others think it was a more efficient spiral ramp that corkscrewed around the outside. Either way, it would have taken huge teams of workers to drag those stones up. So as the outside of the pyramid started to take shape, the builders had to focus on the inner chambers. And this is where they ran into their toughest problem yet, a type of stone that was so hard it should have been impossible for them to cut. The king's chamber, deep inside the pyramid, is built completely out of granite. And as the slide says, granite is one of the hardest stones on the planet. I mean, modern builders need diamond-tipped power saws to slice through it. So how on earth did the ancient Egyptians cut and shape these massive granite blocks so perfectly? The solution to this impossible problem was, once again, surprisingly simple and incredibly clever. They used a toothless copper saw. See, instead of relying on sharp teeth, they used the power of abrasion. They would pour sand into the cut as they sawed back and forth. The super hard quartz crystals in the sand did all the real work, slowly but surely grinding right through solid granite. The patience this must have taken is almost unimaginable. Researchers figured that, using this method, it could have taken up to 4 months to cut through just one large granite block. 4 months of non-stop, back-breaking work for a single piece of this giant puzzle. So when you look at it, the construction of the Great Pyramid is really a monument to human ingenuity. These people were absolute masters of engineering. They solved what seemed like impossible problems with simple, elegant solutions. But even with everything we figured out, the pyramid still holds on to so many of its secrets. Which brings us right back to that little robot. After drilling through that first slab, what did its camera finally see? The answer is another stone slab. And what's behind that one? We still have no idea. The mystery of that secret chamber is still a mystery. And you know what? Maybe that's the true legacy of the Great Pyramid. It's not just a monument of stone. It's a monument to our own curiosity that keeps us in awe, keeps us wondering, and reminds us that there are always new questions to ask.